Hello and welcome to another episode of Video Game Logic. I'm your host, Gaming Psychologist, and with me as always, my wonderful, lovely co-host.
Caffeine, rage, and flattery will get you everywhere.
Aw, yeah. On this week's show, we're going to be discussing the Punch Club Debacle, Origin Access comes to PC, and virtual reality and the Oculus Rift. Now, right off the top, I have to say that you will notice a difference in audio quality this week. That's because I have a cold. So either all of the drugs I'm taking to not feel like I have a cold will make me act weird, or I'll just sound funny. Either way, figured you should know right off the top.
Don't I mean weirder?
Fair play. What games have you played this week, Rage?
Well, beyond the usual pair, I've actually fired up Civilization 5 for once.
You mean again?
Well, I've been off of it ever since our multiplayer that we had. What has it been, like a month and a half, 2 months ago?
I think that was in November.
So, thereabouts. And Civilization is a interesting game for me because I tend to trail off of it and not really complete a game. I'm not sure what it is, if it's just the late game, even with all the expansions which I have. I think the only thing I'm lacking is one of the map DLCs that just adds a few more settings. Even with all that, I'm not sure if it's just I get to the point where I know I'm going to win, so it's just kind of a foregone conclusion, so I don't really bother, or if I just lose interest in general. But it's been an interesting game so far. I'm playing a 5-player game for AIs and myself on another size up map to give myself a little bit more elbow room on Prince difficulty. I know I'm not that great at Civ.
I don't remember all the difficulty levels. Which one is Prince?
Prince is basically the most fair between the AI and the player.
So it's all normal.
Yeah, all the difficulty levels below it give the player bonuses, either starting units or bonuses to happiness, that sort of thing.
Right.
And all the difficulty levels above it give the AI either starting text, or extra units, or make their cities run easier. So, since I'm not that great a player, I play on the balanced difficulty.
I play the balanced difficulty on PC. Civilization Revolution, which was the one that came to consoles and mobile devices a few years ago. I used to play that one on Deity because the AI was so stupid. You say, oh wow, but the AI was so stupid. You could just beat them easily, even on Deity.
To be fair, I am playing on an archipelago map, so it's not exactly the most tough of AI. They're not exactly great at naval warfare, and I absolutely love naval warfare.
Yeah, didn't you tell me you were playing as England?
Yeah, I'm playing as England. And here's the lineup of who I'm playing against. I'm playing against the Ottoman, the Roman, the Japanese, and the Swedish. It's the Swedish empires.
Swedish, yeah.
Oh. Yeah, let's just put it this way. 2 warmongers, 1 potential warmonger, and 1 that goes for a cultural victory.
And you've got naval superiority on a water map.
Yeah, England has additional movement on water, which definitely does help. But at the same time, I think I screwed up a little bit on my gameplay, because where I'm playing with all the expansions, I have access to religion. So my idea was to build my religion around just spreading it out and gaining happiness from it.
Right.
To allow me to get at a couple extra cities, because I like to play a wide empire with a lot of cities and just go for a domination victory. Well, the Ottoman Empire has been just causing me nothing but trouble. They must have gone pretty much full religion, and I'm not sure what they have on their tenants. I could have looked, but I just forgot to. I think one of them was at least a desert bonus to happiness or something.
Okay.
No. I remember now. It's a bonus to faith on desert tiles. So they must be in some sort of desert location. I haven't actually been able to explore their empire because it's islands, so I can only really just go around the coast and see where they are and not really see the interior of the island. At least for a few more years until I get satellites. But around the early Renaissance, the Ottoman Empire sent a great prophet and at least half a dozen missionaries into my empire and just started spreading their religion. And just completely tanked my happiness because I was building off the extra happiness from my religion. And it caused me a lot of problems for quite a while. I wasn't in the situation that you were in our multiplayer game where I was getting revolutions.
Oh my gosh. That was so bad. That's the lowest amount of happiness that I've ever had from my citizens in a game ever. They were so sad and mad.
I mean, you may have technically beat me, but I think I had the healthier empire between the two of us.
Oh, your people were a lot happier. I was ruling through sheer force of will. I had military troops everywhere keeping the peace.
Yeah, I had I think like a 6 or 7 positive happiness, so I could have built another city if I really wanted to in our multiplayer game. But I just didn't want to, partly because we didn't have the space for it. But
Yeah.
back to my single player game. So I get my religion nearly knocked out, only really dominant in my holy city, my capital city, obviously. So I have to spend time to rebuild that, and that took a lot of time that I could have been building up an army to go wipe out the Ottoman Empire. So I haven't gotten to them yet. And even though I took a big hit on happiness, I'm not sure what's going on in the other empires. Maybe it's just the Ottomans have spent so much time building up their religion. Not sure what the Swedish are doing. And Rome and Japan has been having a little bit of a tuffle. They've gone to war for about 300 or 400 years.
That is a long war.
Yeah. A long war of basically them just yelling at each other because I don't think they lost a single city, at least from what the score looked like. So that put them behind. So I'm actually the tech leader somehow. Even though I had this long stretch of having happiness problems where I couldn't expand I could expand, but it caused me even more problems. And I was trying to fix my happiness issues for most of the Renaissance.
I always play Civ from a tech standpoint. I always try to be the leader in technology. That's just, I love to get tech victories. That's my favorite way to win. Usually, especially against the AI, by the time I actually could achieve a tech victory, I could have won by wiping everyone out. Or maybe even a cultural victory too, because usually being the tech leader means that you start to pull ahead in city development and stuff like that as well. But
you haven't played Brave New World, have you?
No, my Civ 5 is bone stock.
You didn't pick up the expansions during the winter sale.
No. I mean, I go through phases with Civ 5. Had a big phase, after we did our multiplayer game. And then I haven't touched it really since. Like, I started a single player game that I finished out, which was just a world map game, like using the actual map of the world, against, I think, 12 AIs.
Wow.
I won that through science and a lot of war. I had Japan and Mongolia beside me, and they warred with me for most of the game.
That's actually a little surprising because Japan, I think, is a bit of a backstabber, if I recall correctly.
Well, they would say, hey, we'll be your friends. And then it's like, haha, we're not actually your friends. We're here to kill you. But after the
How dishonorable of them.
I know. After the first war, though, I managed to pull far enough ahead in the tech tree that I had things like cannons and musketmen. Well, I guess I play as America, so I get Minutemen. And they didn't stand a chance from that point forward. I just held the line until I had the tech to start taking over their cities. And then every time they'd go to war with me, I'd take a couple of cities. And then they'd say, oh no, we want peace. And I'd get 10 turns of peace. And then they'd attack me again. And I'd take a couple more cities.
Yeah, the AI isn't that bright. They keep starting wars that they have no way of having a favorable outcome in.
Nope. And then everyone hated me once I got nuclear weapons. I was like, screw this. But by the time I got nuclear weapons, 3/4 of the world hated me. And I wasn't even doing anything except fighting defensive wars against Mongolia, Japan, and China. China joined in around the Renaissance period. And I was just being defensive.
There's this weird thing where you get warmonger points for capturing cities, even if it's in self-defense.
Yeah, stupid.
Or the war was in self-defense and you take a city.
But I had nuclear weapons, and they were all in kind of the early industrial age to some of the civilizations that advanced to kind of the early 20th century period. And it's like, I've got nuclear weapons. Screw you guys. And I just built a whole bunch of nukes and started nuking everyone.
Sea level starts rising.
It was so much fun. But yeah, everyone hated me, and they all declared war on me, but they didn't stand a chance. I was protecting my sea. I spawned in Africa. So I had all of Africa and pushed forward into Europe, and so north into Europe and then east into Asia as I was getting attacked by China and Mongolia and Japan and other people. So pretty soon I had this ginormous stockpile of resources. I had, I think, 22 nuclear missiles at one point, which
wow.
ICBMs take 2 nuclear materials to build. So I had 22 of those at one point, and it's just like, yeah, bring it on, guys. Screw you. So yeah, that's my Civ 5 story, and I didn't even play Civ 5 this week, or this month, or last month.
Well, technically this year.
Yeah, I haven't played Civ 5 at all this year. So is Civ the only game you played this week outside of the usual?
Yeah, currently I'm in the industrial age. I just entered it, and most of the Civs are about halfway through the Renaissance. I think it's the previous one.
Yes.
Either halfway through the Renaissance or just entering it. So I am obviously the tech leader. So I think instead of trying to just take over all the other Civs, even though I probably could, I think I'm just going to go for the science victory.
There you go. Attaboy. Build the Apollo program. Go to the moon. Win science.
But yeah, that's really been all I've been playing outside of the usual stock.
All right. Well, I played quite a few games this week. The usual Warframe. I play Hearthstone every week, but I played it a lot this week. A lot more than usual. I'm trying to grind out the gold for the newest expansion that they had, the Guild of Explorers or whatever it's called. Those are a lot of fun, even if you're not somebody who's normally into Hearthstone, or if you're behind or whatever. If you're looking for a really fun experience, I'd drop, I think they're $20. I'd spend the $20 just on that one, or on the new expansion, because they just do a lot of different stuff with it. Each level has got unique mechanics, because it's like you're exploring, and so you run into neat stuff that is different from just normal matches. And then also each set, so there's a set of three matches that you fight per kind of area. One of them is an environmental challenge. So instead of having a normal card battle against an opponent, you're trying to get through this area. So it's like all of the cards that you get, it still uses kind of the same basic Hearthstone mechanics, but all of the cards that you get are like, they'll be like choice cards. It'll be like, oh, jump over, try and jump over the ridge or go around. And so if you jump over, it will cost you some health, but you'll go faster. And so you're trying to beat the clock. One of them was like a minecart thing. You had to escape some enemies that are chasing you on a minecart, and you have to play your cards right so that you can dodge all of their attacks and escape before they kill you. It's a lot of fun. So I've been grinding out gold to get those because I'm cheap and I don't want to spend real money on them. I've got 2 wings.
The Hearthstone adventures are kind of expensive gold-wise, aren't they?
Yeah, they're $700 a wing. Like, they're still called wings because the first one was the
Naxxramas,
which had 5 wings. They're 700 gold a wing, which is a lot of gold. You get 10 gold for every 3 wins, and that's across all modes. And then you get bonus gold for completing your daily missions.
Which usually ranges from what, about 50 to 70, with the occasional 100?
No, the range is 30 to 100. It depends. Like the really easy challenges that are like win 2 games with any hero.
Well, I can't remember the low end.
Yeah, it's like win 2 games with any hero is 30 gold. And then it's like win, 2 games with a specific hero is usually like 40. And then there's really more complicated challenges. It's like play so many minions that cost more than 6, which that's really expensive. A 6-mana minion is pretty expensive. Those are worth more. And then there's some really big ones that are worth like 100. Like win 7 games is worth 100. But so it's a lot of fun. I've been enjoying myself. And then I played Disney Infinity this week. I should say Disney Infinity 2.0. I don't have the new Star Wars Disney Infinity yet. But my wife and I were looking for a game to play together, and we have that. That's why we got it, was so that we'd have a game to play together. And we beat all of the initial kind of Marvel content that came with 2.0. And we got some more of the little, what are they called? Like expansion chips or something like that. They're basically like DLC level packs, except they're tied to the NFC chips that come as like little kids collectibles.
Basically amiibos, only not amiibos.
Basically. So we had a few of those, and we were playing some of the new ones this week. And the 2 game types that we played were kind of a top-down ARPG style game, which both of us hated, and then a tower defense game, which was actually a whole lot of fun. So we spent 4 or 5 hours playing Disney Infinity 2 or 2.0 tower defense over the weekend, and that was fun. And then, of course, I played EVE Online, and I could spend a million hours talking about all the time I've spent in EVE, but I will say it's just like a little update from last week. I joined a corp. So I was telling you last week about the 2 corps that were talking.
Yeah, it sounds like one of them did offer dental.
Nope, was too slow on the cough button there. But yeah, one of them, I mean, really, I just went with the corp that was really nice to me, and they did give me some cool stuff. I got a retriever, which is a mining barge, and then I got access to their blueprint vault. So basically, I can just go get all the blueprints I want for free and use them, and I just have to pay a tax on the stuff that I produce, which is basically I give them 10%. It can either be 10% of the cash I make from the sale or 10% of the goods produced.
That doesn't sound too bad.
No, it's not bad at all. They're really nice. I've been talking to other people that I know that play the game, and they're like, wow, you've joined a really, really nice corp. Because usually either they have a lot higher tax rate than that, or they just don't give you all that much free stuff. But they're all really cool. And one of them even started listening to our podcast, so I promise I promise I'm not saying all of these nice things. Fear. That's his player name is Fear.
Fear me.
I'm not just saying all these nice things to make you feel good about yourself. I have a
you are sucking up.
No, I've got all their crap.
Suck up.
I went and took a whole bunch of stuff out to build later, so I could just leave the corp and keep all that stuff, but I'm not.
Then you'd get hunted down.
I would be hunted down, but I'm not going to do that because they're nice and I like them. Plus, I mean, who else am I going to talk to about EVE? Everybody's eyes glaze over when I talk to them about it, except Ghost Shark. And I've only managed to talk to him about it once. Yeah, exactly. So,
well, that's because he's antisocial.
I'm not. Well, I guess I'm kind of antisocial.
Hey, he was playing Warframe the other day. I think it was Ghost Shark that I was talking to. To be honest, Ghost Shark and Spaceman kind of blend together in my head for some reason. I'm not sure if it's just I don't talk to him all that often.
It might be.
And that we see him basically at the same time.
Yeah. They sound very different, so it must just be in your head, like, since you only ever play with them both at the same time.
Yeah.
Because I've played with...
well, also, a lot of times they're not in voice chat, so...
Yeah, that's true.
Whatever I'm see them, so... You know, it's kind of hard to put a text to a voice if I'm not paying attention to what light is lighting up on TeamSpeak because it's hidden behind a window.
Right.
But anyway, one of them was playing Warframe last night, and Just didn't want me to drag him somewhere. I think I dragged him to too much death.
I mean, you're a lot higher level than they are, and you're a bit higher level than I am. So, but I mean, no offense to those guys, but I'm a lot better at the game than they are. So I can keep up with you for the most part. I've just always been naturally good at video games.
Plus, it's not like I will drag out Valkyrie all the time. Just most of it.
Yeah, very true. So that's all the games I played this week. That's all the games you played this week. Ready to move into the topic list?
Yeah. And this time we'll do it in order.
Absolutely. So first up, the Punch Club Debacle, as I listed it. So Punch Club made several changes. What happened, or I should say what was happening when we put this on our topic list, is that Punch Club is an indie game on Steam that is a kind of a boxing management game. I'm not sure if you actually fight, but...
It's basically Game Dev Tycoon, only instead of being a game developer, you're a boxer.
Right, and I eat that kind of stuff up. I love those games.
And when I put this on the topic list, this was in the middle of their Twitch Plays Punch Club. I keep wanting to call it Fight Club, but it's Punch Club. Their Twitch Plays Punch Club thing, where they were doing a event to basically release the game earlier than they were originally going to. And the Steam forums exploded, partly because Lazy Bear Studio, or Tiny Build Games, that's the developer and the producer in that order, didn't exactly do the greatest job of communicating what was going on. While the Twitch Plays Punch Club was going on, they put the game up as pre-order with a cheeky little message saying, "Release date is in your hands," and then link to the Twitch thing. No other explanation. And this pissed off a very vocal minority of gamers, to the point that there was people calling for boycotts or calling to buy the game and then refund it to drive a message home. There were even some people on the Steam forums calling for a vote bomb on their Metacritic page. Which is just, I don't care how pissed off you are at a game, don't review it if you haven't played the damn game.
Yeah.
It's just not fair to me.
That's one of the biggest problems with Metacritic, which is a discussion for another time. But so before we go any farther, I think that it's important that we make it clear that they had never set a release date.
They hadn't. There was some people claiming that they had, but they hadn't.
No, they never said when the game was going to release. I think that the closest they came to a release date was they said in an update that the release date will be coming soon. And that's the closest that they got to an actual date until they did the Twitch Plays Punch Club thing.
Yeah, which they didn't even put a release date out at first. A couple hours later, after their Steam forums erupted into rage, then they came back and said, well, if you don't beat the game by the 25th, we'll release it. Because there were some people claiming that this is robbery, Twitch will never beat this game, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it was just complete chaos.
Right. I think that we should break this down into a few parts and just discuss each one individually before we get too lost on the whole. First of all, I want to know how you felt about the actual release plan, the Twitch plays, and then when they beat it, the game releases. Like, how do you feel about that?
It's an interesting idea. I think it was communicated poorly, though. This is far from the very first Twitch plays. I mean, there's obviously the Twitch plays Pokemon. There was Twitch plays Dark Souls at one point, supposedly.
Yeah, they actually
were talking about.
Twitch actually beat Dark Souls 1. They're playing through Dark Souls 2 right now.
Oh, they are? I honestly haven't been keeping up with the whole Twitch plays phenomenon. I only go on Twitch to watch certain people, and with you during our streams together.
Right, and to be honest, if Twitch can beat Dark Souls, Twitch can beat any game. Like, that's just a fact.
I did watch some of the Twitch plays Pokemon, and it was rather interesting to watch just how organized things got. So saying that Twitch would never beat this game, I think was a little bit short-sighted. Maybe it was just somebody not knowing just how organized Twitch can get whenever they are given a a particular goal.
Yeah, the Twitch Play system has actually evolved a lot as kind of an aside to that. Like, the original Twitch Plays Pokemon started out as anarchy. Anybody could submit the particular button combinations to make the movements happen. And then as it went on and it realized that they couldn't get past something, they put in kind of a voting system. And
Yeah, they went from anarchy to a democracy mode where there was a certain timer that would go off that the most voted action would get played.
Right. And then that voting system has since evolved with the Twitch Plays Dark Souls series to only certain people could be the ones who could submit commands. And it wasn't like you had to pay money or anything. There were just only so many slots at a time that people could submit commands for. So to help cut down on some of the volume of commands that were coming in. And then there have now become organized groups that go through and try to beat these games like that. So, I mean, it's completely possible. It has become an interesting thing. Like, every once in a while, I'll go check on the Twitch Plays Dark Souls 2, now, since I know that it's a thing. And progress is very slow, but they do make progress, so good for them.
I will say that the whole thing, even though it did cause a lot of negative press, got the word out there.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about this game.
Total Biscuit talked about it. Jim Sterling talked about it. I think that the Rooster Teeth guys talked about it. I feel like I heard them say something about it, or maybe it was like they mentioned it on Twitter. I mean, there's a thing in marketing that there's no such thing as bad press. And to be honest, like you said, I felt like that this promotional thing was poorly communicated, but it wasn't a bad idea. I actually thought it was a really neat way to get your game out there. And I mean,
yeah, I think they could have saved themselves a lot of heartache saying, okay, we're going to release in 2 weeks, but if you beat it through Twitch, we'll release it sooner.
Right. That would have been a much better way to communicate it. Although, and I'm not like saying that they did this, I have no evidence, this is just pure speculation. They could have done it this way on purpose, hoping to stir up a conspiracy for the extra free publicity. I mean, if that was the case, good job, guys, you pulled it off. If not, well, I'm glad that it seems to be working out in your favor, at least.
Yeah, the last time I checked, I looked at the game page just shortly before we started recording, and there were 2,500 people playing the game.
Yeah, I mean, this
is just a little indie tycoon game, so that is absolutely a huge number.
Right, and it's on my wish list, and I actually moved it into my portion of the wish list that is for games that I genuinely want, because it looks really interesting to me. I mean, like I said, I love games like this. I love being the manager of something. That's why I love EVE Online so much.
Oh, I so need to get you into Dwarf Fortress, but that is a topic for another day.
You keep trying to get me into it, and I'm not opposed. It just never happens.
I'm going to get the Clockwork Orange headset and to keep your eyes open and force you to watch 6 hours of tutorials to play the game.
I've watched 6 hours of tutorials to play games before, man. I'm not afraid. Bring it on.
I think this is going to be my project after you finish that anime eventually.
Oh, man. Off topic, but I was watching some videos about like people's top 10 anime of the year and that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And School Alive actually showed up on a few lists. I keep meaning to watch it while I play EVE, but I have not gotten around to doing that.
You keep forgetting it, don't you?
No, I'll get invested in something else while I'm playing EVE. I've been playing Hearthstone this week, so I've just got Hearthstone on my second monitor. I'm playing Hearthstone and playing EVE at the same time.
You are such a junkie.
I am. But it's okay. So anyways, back to our actual topic at hand. So we discussed the actual pre-order concept. So the response to it. Now, I think we kind of made our responses clear. We didn't think it was a bad idea, just poorly communicated, but pretty neat. And they had never set a release date before. How do you feel about everybody just, essentially losing their shit?
I don't think everyone lost their shit, because there was topics saying that calm down. There was developer appreciation threads.
That's fair.
I think
I'm actually...
It's just a vocal minority, and that we're just focusing on the people that were calling for boycotts. We're focusing on the people that were just being absolute shitheads.
Right.
For lack of a better term. Because let's be honest, it's a lot easier to pay attention to someone screaming bloody murder over a Twitch plays game when there's a lot of other stuff in gaming that people should be screaming bloody murder about, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah. I just don't understand why. I can't fathom the kind of person that responds to something in that way. Like, the very first thread that I read when you showed this to me last week, I was like, we absolutely have to talk about it because this one person has lost his mind. It's just, I just can't.
Do you recall what they were saying?
I mean, it was one of the people that was like, this is the worst business decision ever. Twitch is never going to beat the game. This game is never going to come out. They've lied to us and stolen all of our money. Which,
did they really think that they were going to delete the game if Twitch didn't release it, to take the word to Total Biscuit?
They made it seem that way. Like, if Twitch doesn't beat the game, it's going to be gone for forever and ever and ever.
Yeah, that, which gets back to the whole, they communicated very, very poorly.
Right.
And I'm willing to say it's likely Tiny Build that were the ones that were running the event, and not Lazy Bear Games, because they Tiny Build's the publisher, and they tend to run these sort of events.
Right. I don't know. I'm at a loss for words. I just can't fathom the mind of a person that responds to things that way. It just matters so little in the grand scheme of things. It baffles me that people on the internet can go so far to the extreme that way. I feel really sorry for the devs of the game that had to deal with that, even if it's a vocal minority. I mean, let's say that, okay, 2,500 people are playing the game right now. Vocal minority, 10%. That's 250 messages that they had to read and see of people, crying bloody murder over this.
It was just absolutely lunacy. If you want to see just how crazy it was, go to Punch Club's forums and go to the last, 5 to 10 pages of just seeing some of the gems that are in that. It's just absolutely craziness.
Some of the gems there. Nice.
Yeah. I mean, there's just some gems of just stupidity there.
Oh, I was thinking gem as in the gym that we know that yells about
No. I'm not saying that. Even though I'm sure he could get that route. It's just absolute stupidity.
Yeah, I'm going back to now look at some of those forum threads.
Yeah, there was one that really stood out to me, which I wasn't able to find. It was probably bumped up beyond that point. That was just crying for boycotts of both Lazy Bear Game, which this is their first rodeo, at least a Steam release. This was their first Steam release. And there was, like I said, the review bomb calls telling people to go on Metacritic and download the game as hard as they could.
Yeah. I don't. Is there anything else that you really want to say about it? I think that, and no one on the internet who's like this is going to listen to me, but seriously, guys, just calm down. If you're that excited about the game, pre-order it, wait for it to come out, go occupy yourself with the thousands of other games that are available on Steam. It's just, or go hug your family. If you got kids, go give them a hug. If you got a wife, go give her a kiss, or a husband. I don't judge. I don't know who you are. But it's just an indie game that looks pretty cool on Steam that's trying to do something different.
Just and like relax, I said before, guys. There's a lot of things in gaming that are far more worthwhile getting worked up over. Not to this extent, obviously. But to make your distaste known, then a Twitch Plays release. Now, granted, they were being very cheeky in their announcement, saying, "Well, it's in your hands. We don't know when it's going to release." But that comes down to communication from an indie dev that either, if it's the dev that was running it, never did this thing before, or Tiny Build, which has released several games but never did this type of event before. And I'd actually be shocked if they did this type of event again because of just this outcry. Which it was really kind of disappointing to me because there's a lot of interesting things that they could have done with this.
Right.
That because there was such an outcry to this event, that they may be scared off from doing this again. There may be other devs that were going to do something similar to this that won't do it now because they saw just the uproar and they just don't want to deal with it.
Right, which is really sad because I missed the Twitch event.
Yeah, it only took them 2.5 days.
Yeah, that's pretty quick.
And the dev, I think it was, I'm pretty sure it was the dev on this one because it was a Lazy Bear account, said that they were expecting it to take a week.
Right. And I mean, I'd like to see some other events of this type, either Twitch plays or something that's kind of out of the box like that for a release date for some other games in the future. I thought it was a really neat idea. But because of this outcry, you're right, companies probably won't want to put up with the potential hassle. Why can't people get this outraged about microtransactions in full retail games? Or
I have no idea.
How prolific DLC has become, or on-disc DLC, or really horrible DRM.
I don't know. Like I said, there's so many things that are worthwhile getting upset about. This, having a game actually come out they said that the release date was January 25th, and it actually released like last Friday, so about 2.5 weeks early. Why are you this pissed off?
I'm not going to make any judgments of character about them. I'm going to refrain from doing that. They just are the kind of person that gets worked up too easily. That's all I'll say about them.
I mean, I'm saying cool down, and I have rage in my name.
It's true. You have anger issues, and you're not getting this upset about it.
I mean, my initial thought was both sides were a bit stupid. Like I said before, the dev having a communication issue, or whoever's running the event, and I won't say players, because a lot of these people won't buy the game either because they were so pissed off, or they just saw this thing going on the internet and decided to jump in, which is very possible. Is that it was just not even the people that are interested in the game, but just people that wanted to be pissed off about something joining into this whole fight, having a third party in there. And just, I thought both sides were just wrong. There was no clear winner on this.
Right. Totally agree.
And I'm the ball of salt and cynicism.
You most certainly are. But yeah, I totally agree with you. There was no winner. I think that the dev came out of it at least no worse for no worse for wear. Because the game seems to be doing well, which good. It's very good. I like to see games like this. This game might not be revolutionary, but it looks like it's a bit unique, actually. Just, I don't know if I've ever seen a boxing game outside of, games that only revolve around punching people. It's nice to see some of the other complexities of the industry be put into a game. So, good for them. I'm looking forward to buying it, actually, when it goes on sale.
Yeah. I'm not sure if I want to pick up a tycoon-style game for $10, just because I have real problems with that genre. Partly because they seem like they are more trial and error games than what I would really want to play. I'd like to have some sort of info.
Right. I mean, I don't blame you there.
Overall, this one doesn't look that bad, and it's a shame that people got that worked up over it.
Yeah, totally agree. We're going to have another topic to talk about, though, here in a little bit that people got all worked up about. But next on the list, unless you have any more final thoughts.
No, not really. I think we've beaten this one to death.
Origin Access on PC. Is it called Origin Access on consoles? I can't remember what it's called.
No, it was called EA Vault, if I recall correctly.
The EA Vault.
Or EA Access. Let me just double check that one while you talk.
Okay. This has actually been around for a while, if you're not aware of it. It released on consoles.
It's called EA Access.
EA Access, okay. It's been around on consoles since, I believe, either the first... Well, I would have said the first of this year, but it's 2016. The first of last year to somewhere around the middle of last year, it released, and you paid a fee per month. And I don't remember what it was on consoles.
It was the same price as PC, but it was $5 a month. But the thing is that the console version also has a yearly thing of $30 a month, or sorry, $30 a year,
right?
Which is half the price.
Right. So you paid the fee, and then you got access to every single EA title that was available.
That was in the vault. It wasn't all EA games.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was in the vault. And then they've been expanding the vault ever since they released it, and now it has come to PC
as the Origin access.
Right, and so for $5 a month, you get access to their entire vault,
which currently has 15 games. I'll read the games off if you don't mind me interjecting.
Sure, go ahead.
You'll get Battlefield 4 Deluxe, Digital Deluxe Edition, Dragon Age Inquisition Digital Deluxe, Battlefield Hardline Digital Deluxe, Battlefield 3, SimCity, which, to be honest, you'd have to pay me $5 a month to be able to play that. What? I need to get my jab in there somewhere. I was a big Maxis fan.
No, I don't blame you. I agree. Just, that was great, the way that you just put that in there. Anyways.
Anyway, getting back on topic. FIFA 15, Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare, Need for Speed Rivals Complete Edition, Dead Space 3, Dragon Age 2, Dead Space 2, Dragon Age Origins Ultimate Edition, Dead Space, Sims 3 Starter Pack, which has, looks like 2 or 3 expansion packs on it. And then the real interesting one is this final one, This War of Mine, which is actually not an EA game, and the EA access on consoles doesn't have non-EA games. So this may mean that we get non-EA games and Origin access, which makes it a little bit more interesting.
Well, a few things to say about this. Number one, I think that this is a great value proposition on Dragon Age Inquisition alone. Like $5, if you're the type of person who is going to subscribe to a gaming service, you probably are the kind of person that can put enough time into it to get your money's worth. You could pay $5, beat Dragon Age Inquisition in a month, and then cancel your subscription if none of the other games interested you. Like, Dragon Age Inquisition is worth it alone. I love that game. But there's a lot of really good games in here. All of the Battlefields, except for Hardline, are quite good. I mean, Hardline was garbage. It just didn't fit with Battlefield at all. Need for Speed Rivals is pretty good.
Wasn't that the one that had its physics locked to the frame rate, and it was at 30 FPS, and if you unlocked it, it went at either 2 or 3 times speed, depending on your refresh rate?
You are correct about that, although I played it on console, so I didn't have that problem.
Yeah, there's a hilarious video, once again, of Total Biscuit. Seems like we mentioned him a lot.
Well, he's like our shared point of gaming news and critique.
Yeah, there's a video of Total Biscuit uncapping the frame rate in Need for Speed Rivals and just going at ludicrous speed.
I'll have to watch that. I don't think I've seen that video. But so Need for Speed Rivals was pretty good. Garden Warfare is actually a really good game. FIFA 15, I don't really care for the FIFA games. I've played a couple. I mean, they're all right, but I'm not a sports game person. SimCity, you can just throw that right out. Dead Space 3 and 2 and 1. I'm not a big fan of the Dead Space series. There's nothing wrong with it. I just don't like scary games.
Well, the thing is that I know at least 2 of these games of Dead Space. They've given away in the Origins on the House giveaway, or they've been bundled recently.
Right.
So that may cut into the value of this.
But, and then, so, Dead Space games, the other 2 Dragon Age games, which you can skip Dragon Age 2, it's garbage. But Dragon Age Origins, the Ultimate Edition, which comes with the big DLC expansion, that's great. Although you can usually pick it up on Steam for like $2. It's a pretty old game that goes on sale frequently. The Sims 3 is the best Sims, so that's good.
Well, the problem is that it doesn't have all the expansion packs and stuff packs, so That is one of my problems with this, is that a lot of these games have a lot of DLC, and you don't have access to it all. So what do they expect you to do? Buy it for a subscription game?
I was going to say, I'm sure they expect you to pay for it. So, I mean, I think that if you're the sort of person who wants to play some of these games, it's a great value proposition. Because for the price of a year, so 12 months, $5, $60. So for the price of one of these games, you could probably play through all the ones that you're interested in a year. And they're supposed to keep adding games to it. This War of Mine, like you said, is not an EA title. So that might mean that, I'm guessing that they probably have some kind of program where you can sign up to be in the pack to get exposure for your game. I'm just guessing. That's 100%.
Well, something else that we'll get to in a bit is the trials.
Right. But so I'm guessing that games can do that, and this War of Mine is probably like a pilot that they're doing for that. I mean, I think this is a great value proposition. It might give me an incentive to download Origin, because I've got Inquisition for my Xbox, and I quite like it on my Xbox, but I'd like to play it at 60 FPS. And I'd be willing to spring for this.
Or see all the mods.
Yeah. And I mean, I'd be willing to spring for that alone. Not to mention the older Dragon Age games, which I do own on Steam, admittedly. But, I mean, as part of this pack, I'd play them again. I liked Battlefield 3. I played it on my Xbox 360 when I had that back in the day. So I wouldn't mind going back to play it again. Battlefield 4 is good. I mean, there's several games in here that I would be more than willing to pay $5 for individually. But having access to all of them is very appealing to me.
Okay, so a couple other things on this is that they have first trials that they are doing as well as part of the Access program. And they already announced the first one. You get, they call it a free first trial, where you're able to try the game for free before it comes out, which always feels like a misnomer when they say, as part of the subscription service, you get this free when if you stop doing the subscription, you lose that. So it always feels like a weird wording to me.
Right, but people love the word free.
Yeah. They have Unravel, which is an upcoming indie title. I think it's indie, at least.
It is indie, but it's being published by EA.
I wasn't sure.
They were at E3 this last year.
Yeah, it's an interesting puzzle platformer. And it's going to be part of a free, in massive sarcasm quotes, trial that you're able to play starting February 4th for up to 10 hours of gameplay.
Right. I feel like you could beat Unravel in 10 hours, although it's got a little caveat. It says try the first the first 2 levels for up to 10 full hours.
They said, I missed that. First 2 levels, so yeah, it's not the full game, it's just a slice of it.
Yes, but as part of the program in the past, when this released on Xbox One and PS4, I believe it was before Battlefield Hardline came out, and you could play Battlefield Hardline for 10 hours and keep all of your progress and everything if you chose to purchase it. So
yeah, and that's the same here, is where you're able to keep your progress if you purchase it.
So they have done kind of unlimited demos before. Basically, once it unlocked, you could play it up until the game actually fully released. So, I don't know if the demo period continues after the game has come out. I feel like it would be silly if it didn't, but I wouldn't be surprised if EA was like, "Oh, the game's released. If you want to play it now, you have to buy it. You can't demo it."
Yeah, it's just like I said, it's a weird thing to have that sort of demo tied behind a subscription thing, when it feels like a demo should be out there in the wild. But that's more of a criticism of demos being kind of a forgotten thing nowadays.
Yeah, very few games
for
have
good
demos.
reason, because it does require a development time, and there's a lot of times that once you play a demo, you realize don't really feel like playing this game,
right?
And they lose a sale. So I kind of understand why they're locking a demo away, but at the same time, it's very frustrating to have demos out there but not be able to play them because you're not shilling. Well, I shouldn't say shilling, but giving up $5
right?
a month for it.
It
just feels weird to me. And what you have something to say about this?
I was gonna say I do like this lineup. I'd like to see some other titles added. Even though I'm not a huge fan of the sports titles, I think that it's important that EA adds their full sports lineup to this pack. I feel like they'd get a lot of subs from people who want to play the yearly sports games but don't want to buy them every year.
Yeah, but see, that requires them to actually port their sports games to PC.
That's true. They could put them
I'm
in
looking
the
at their
console
sports
version.
section on Origin right now. And let's see, FIFA. Oh, look, more FIFA. I'm having trouble finding anything but FIFA.
I'd say Battlefront will be coming to this pretty soon.
Oh, there's FIFA Manager. Does that count?
I mean, they've got Battlefront in the picture. I suppose that could just be for advertising. I mean, Battlefront still sucks. It's not got any better, but I mean, the people who want to play Battlefront, this would be a good way to play it. Honestly, if I had this, I would probably play Battlefront for a few hours to go, oh yeah, that's pretty, and then never again. But I'm just looking through their list of games here, and I see several that I'd like to see on there. It's just, I think they've got a strong initial lineup. I'd like to see more games.
I think Titanfall definitely should be on there.
Titanfall definitely should be on there.
I mean, that has a very small community on PC.
Yeah.
But that's partly because of the problem of it having a lot more competition on PC.
Yeah. The Mass Effect series should be on there. I mean, there's no reason for that not to be on there unless it's just making so much money on its own that there's no point in putting it in there.
Crysis series.
Did EA publish the Crysis series?
Well, I'm looking at Crysis 3 on Origin right now.
Well, I see Crysis on here, but I mean, Origin operates a lot like Steam. You can sell your game on there. Oh, yeah, it's got the EA stamp on it. I guess they did publish it. I did not realize that. Scrolling through the list some more. Lots of DLC. I think I've got to the bottom of the games list.
Well, I'm looking at stuff under $10, and they do have a lot of stuff that... Origin's actually expanded a lot more than I thought it did.
Origin is almost the type of service that I would be okay to buy games from. I've just been waiting and waiting for them to improve because I want to purchase the entire Mass Effect collection on PC. But Origin's the only place you can get the whole collection. They never put Mass Effect 3 on Steam.
Yeah.
And I just have been waiting because Origin has had so many problems. But they've been getting better. Every few months I hear some game critic that I trust say, you know, Origin's gotten a lot better than it used to be.
Yeah, Origin, EA is becoming the competition that Valve really needs.
Yeah, which is kind of scary, to be honest.
Yeah, because we keep talking about EA like it's the big boogeyman, which, let's be honest, they are.
Yeah.
I could get really political right now, but I don't think I will.
EA or Ubisoft? Oh, speaking of Ubisoft, a quick bit of little news that I saw today about Ubisoft. Due to legal requirements, they have changed their terms of service.
Yeah, I saw that. I didn't go into it.
Basically, it's in more plain English now. The old terms of service were 100% legalese, but the changes they've made to it have made it more plain English. And I'm not 100% sure on this one, but it feels like it's a bit more consumer friendly. I don't know if there's some law that has come into effect somewhere that Uplay is and Ubisoft is sold, like their digital goods are sold, where that they're having to make some regulation changes, kind of like how Steam had to put in the refund policy because of European regulations.
Yeah, and why does it feel like Europe has so much better consumer protection laws than the U.S.?
Because they do.
That's really sad, isn't it? It's basically buyer beware in the United States, but there's just so much protection overseas.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that is, actually. That would be a good topic for the future.
Yeah, but one that I'm very not versed in.
I'm not super versed in it either, but I bet with some deep research and a disclaimer that neither of us are legal types.
What do you think the logo for our podcast is askew on my channel? Because we're often askew.
Absolutely. And you did that to bug me because you know that I like things to be nice and neat and straight.
Well, to be honest, I didn't realize it would bug you that much when I did it, but it was an added bonus.
Well, yeah, it's okay. Have anything else to say about Origin Access?
Well, I will throw in the last little bit of this before we move on. Is that members of Origin Access also get a 10% permanent discount from Origin while they have their subscription active, obviously.
Does that
Which
do you know if that stacks with titles that are already on sale?
I don't know. Let me check their FAQ real quick, see if they address that. Because if it does, that would actually be really good.
Yeah, it'd be really nice. I mean,
Let's see.
I feel like it would almost have to because you're paying them constant money every month. So, but I mean, well, I say it would almost have to, but they don't have to do anything.
I do not see them addressing this. I don't see them addressing it at all, so
Yeah, I don't see
that
it either.
will be something to ask them.
Yep. And either we'll get a non-response or they'll just straight up say no. I doubt that they would say, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, for as evil as EA is, they at least do customer service. That's more than you could say for Valve.
Yeah, they do have good customer service. But I'm pretty much done with my thoughts about that.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't think it's for me, partly just because I have such a huge gaming library, and a lot of the games just don't appeal to me.
Yeah, that's the thing. You said huge gaming library. I've got a massive games library. I mean, I'd like to be able to play some of those games,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of a non-committal subscription is the best way for me personally to play them because most of those games I'm like, yeah, I'll play this for a dozen hours or so and then be done. But I have so many games in my library, I just can't justify it right now.
Yeah. Yeah, and I have 2 of the Dead Space games, so that takes a good chunk of this out of it.
Yeah, I don't care about the Dead Space games. Like I said, I'm not into scary games.
But yeah, that pretty much wraps up this topic.
So next on the
Does
topic
that mean
list,
I need to start recording now?
very funny. You interrupted me. What was I saying? Oh.
Sorry.
You are all right. Anyways, next on the topic list. Yeah, very evil. Next on the topic list, Oculus Rift. Well, virtual reality and the Oculus Rift. But I figured in order to have this conversation about the Oculus, we needed to discuss our overall thoughts and opinions on virtual reality. Do you want to go first, or do you want me to take it away?
You can go first. I've gone first a couple times.
Okay, so generally, overall, the way I feel about virtual reality, I don't think that virtual reality is the future of gaming and technology, but I do think that it is a part of that future. Personally, it's not for me, at least not in its current form. I wear glasses, so I have that problem, and I do know that there are some virtual reality headsets out there that claim to work fine with users who wear glasses. I have not personally experienced those yet, so I can't say if they work or not. I do have experience with the Oculus DK1 and DK2, and that's kind of what I'm basing all of this off of. So virtual reality is not for me. First, on that premise, and second, I just don't really see the point of it. I mean, I've played it on a decent rig that can run it at the time 60 FPS, and have played a couple of flight sims and car racing games, and I just don't get what the big deal is. To me, it doesn't add enough to the experience to justify the cost of it. And I feel like there are some real drawbacks to a VR headset that people don't seem to want to talk about, like the fact that it's covering your entire head. So you have no access to the room around you. Like it's blocking off, at the very least, your eyesight, probably your hearing too. Which, if you live by yourself, all right, that's fine. But most people don't live by themselves. They have kids or families and roommates, things like that. They need to be able to pay attention to the world around them. And second, I feel like that you can get immersed enough in a world that with just using a computer monitor or a TV screen, depending on your play type or your play style, that you don't need a VR headset. I just don't feel like that the value add is enough to justify it yet. Perhaps in the future.
I want to say that the people that are looking into VR headsets aren't you and me. They're the people that have full-size recreations of cockpits.
Right, absolutely. I totally agree with that.
They are the enthusiasts, at least for now.
Yeah, Oculus and other VR headsets are definitely in the enthusiast market right now. Even the Samsung Gear VR, which uses a smartphone, can only be run on the 3 most expensive and powerful smartphones that Samsung produces: the Note 5, the S6, and I think the S5 are the only 3 phones that can run it. Which people don't realize how expensive phones are, because phone companies, at least in the United States, subsidize the cost of the phones through contracts. But the Galaxy Note 5 costs $700 or $800 if you just buy it up front. Plus,
which we should probably go. The Oculus pre-order price was $600,
right,
or $599 before taxes, and I don't think they're even throwing in free shipping.
I think that price included shipping. Maybe
you continue talking. I'll look.
Okay, yeah, you look that up. I don't think that that's a bad price point, honestly. That was one of the big complaints. Oculus was going to cost so much, but when you think about it, it's basically 2 high-powered cell phones strapped over your face. I mean, I know that that's a gross oversimplification of what the technology is, but they're ultra high definition cell phone screens. Basically, they have the same basic components and build quality.
It does not include shipping, by the way.
Okay, it does not. So that's $599 plus shipping to wherever your region is. Probably cheaper in the United States, more expensive overseas. So all in and done, after tax and shipping, you're looking at probably $700 to $800 to get this headset in your house, on your head. But I'm not surprised about the price. I mean, it's the cutting edge technology right now. The kind of person that's going to be able to run this thing has already got some money in the bank. I mean, you pulled the specs up for the PC, but let me see if I can remember what they recommend right off the top of my head. They recommend
this is going to be interesting.
They recommend a 970, at least a mid-range i5, and was it 12 gigabytes of RAM?
Okay, I'll go over the full specs.
Okay,
NVIDIA GTX 970 or AMD 290 equivalent or greater.
Okay, I said 970.
Intel i5 4590 equivalent or greater.
Which is the mid-range i5.
8 gigs of RAM.
8 gigs.
At least.
Okay.
Compatible HDMI 1.3 video output. 2 USB 3.0 ports. And Windows 7 Service Pack 1 or greater. They actually they support all the way up to Windows 10.
Right. So just the kind of PC that's going to take to have that build anyways is going to be $1,200 minimum. So you're looking at least a $1,200 PC to get the minimum experience for the Oculus.
Yeah, to give you an idea, let me price a minimum video card right now.
I'm going to guess that the 970 is $400.
$350.
Pretty close.
Granted, I just did a quick search on the card, and I'm not diving into the different coolers or anything else.
Right. But the GTX 970 requires external power, so you have to have a powerful enough power supply to run it, and you're going to have a motherboard that can handle it, and et cetera, et cetera. So you're looking at a $1,200 to $1,500 base build to even run this thing on the minimum settings, which the
I
Oculus...
think that's probably a bit high, but I would say probably $1,000, depending on how long it takes you to put it all together if you're looking for sales and trying to get the best deals.
Right.
Someone that's just throwing it together, $1,200 is probably fair.
Right.
But you could probably shave a couple $100 off.
It'd probably cost you $2,000 if you just bought one straight out of the box that had at least those specifications. So like
at least 4 or 5 if you put Alienware on the case.
I was going to say, if you put an alien face on it, it'll cost more. But, so people got all up in arms about the price, but, I mean, I was honestly expecting it to cost more. Oculus kind of set themselves up for that because they were saying that, ballpark 350.
Yeah, once again, it's a developer giving some bad communication.
Right. But I was expecting it to cost closer to $700-800 a unit. They even said that they subsidized the cost a bit because of the Facebook buyout. So I can't imagine what the other headsets are going to cost. I mean, Oculus is the biggest one on the market. I know that there's the Vive or the Vive or however you say it. And then there's the whatever Project Morpheus got renamed to. Whatever it is, it's not as cool as Morpheus, so I'm just going to keep calling it the Morpheus.
Yeah, and if we're throwing in augmented reality, there's was that Morpheus or was that a different one that Microsoft was working on?
No, that was the Microsoft one that was the...
Okay, I couldn't remember if it was Morpheus or whatever. It was. To be honest, all the project names, since they are temporary names anyway, kind of just go in one ear and out the other unless I'm really focusing on it.
Yeah, Project Morpheus was the Sony VR that's supposed to somehow magically run off the PS4.
Yeah. How are they going to do that when they can't maintain 30 FPS at 1080p? Because something about the Oculus that was interesting, spec-wise, is that it is running at 2160 by 1200. It's not a 1080p screen. It's actually a lot higher.
Yeah, and also it requires a minimum 90 FPS to function properly.
It's running at 90 hertz. I was about to get to that.
Yeah. I think that they're squeezing... Okay, so the way that VR works, basically, is since it's sitting in front of your eyes, they go for maximum pixel density so that they can both get the clarity correct, and also they can do lots of neat visual tricks with your eyes. For example, probably the only thing that I really like about the VR experience is the VR home theater. With this tiny screen on your face, you can make it look like you're watching a movie theater sized screen.
An IMAX?
Yeah, it can appear like you're watching an IMAX just as an optical illusion that's created by the way that it's laid out in front of your eyes, and they can get away with that because it's right in front of your face, projecting well, I was going to say projecting 3D images, but that's not exactly it. I'm about to step into territory where I know just enough to be dangerous because I don't know the other half. So I'll stop there. But I mean, what I've set up to this point.
There goes my fun.
What I've set up to this point.
Besides, that would have been some emails. People writing in saying you're wrong.
It's magic eye pixies that makes it work. There you go. But so they do that on purpose. The closer you get to the human eye, the higher resolution that you need in order to put all of that together. That's why it runs at such what seems like a ridiculously high resolution, although that's not that high. 4K is only a couple years away from becoming the standard.
Yeah, well, it's not quite a 4K screen, if I recall correctly.
No, it would be closer
4K to specs, but it's just a couple steps down.
Yeah, it's somewhere around 2K, I think, which is still really, really high.
And with a very high refresh rate, just trying to really get rid of the screen door effect that a lot of people were complaining about with the dev kits.
Right. Because I think the dev kits ran at 60.
Yeah, and there you had a 1080p screen.
Right, and it just wasn't a high enough pixel density or refresh rate. Which, that could have played into my, not dislike, but kind of my general disinterest in VR. It just wasn't running well enough for me to appreciate it. Because like we've talked about before on here, I can spot the difference between 30, 60, 90, 144 hertz. Like, I can see that difference. Not everybody can, so the people who I used the Oculus with, who thought it was amazing, might have not been able to spot the difference, but I could tell. But I think that VR is going to be a part of the future. I don't think that VR is dead because Oculus came out costing a reasonable amount for the kind of technology that it is. I don't think that VR is going to become like this giant juggernaut either, but I think VR is here to stay. I think that this time VR has progressed far enough that it's going to be something that people are able to enjoy. And is it Moore's Law? That every 18 months there's a doubling in computing power for half the cost?
I can't remember if the cost is part of it, but there is a doubling of computing power.
So, in a few years, as we get better and better at manufacturing these VR headsets, people will be able to buy one. I mean, this is, a few years down the road, but I fully believe that people will be able to buy a fully contained VR headset that, you just plug into power and it works for $300 or $400. And I mean,
I'm really hoping that the VR is going to push graphics cards to try to up their game, because the consoles aren't doing it.
No, absolutely not. But, and I think 5 years you'll be able to buy a fully self-contained VR unit that probably won't be as powerful as the equivalent, top-end model of the time, but that is affordable for normal families who want to have a VR experience. I mean, if you think about it, $300 or $400 is what you pay for a decent TV. It's like if you're a single guy living in an apartment or a small family, and you want a better home theater experience, a VR headset's definitely the way to go. And if you're only having to pay what you would pay for a better TV than what you have, absolutely. I'd go buy a VR headset today if that's what it was like. And I mean, we're not there yet, but we will get there. My prediction is about 5 years. It might be faster than that. It might be slower than that, but I feel like 5 years is a good ballpark.
And that sounds about right for the computers to catch up, just with how the progression of power is gone, and that this thing requires this big of horsepower behind the hood, or under the hood, I should say.
Yeah. So I had a conversation with my wife about VR today. Like, I wanted to talk to her about this before we actually came on here and talked about it, because I mean, my wife plays a few video games, but her games for the most part are more like cell phone games, and I know that she has no idea about the technology that runs it or anything like that. And I asked her how she felt about it, and basically what her general sentiments came down to was, I think that people don't understand it well enough, and they need to be careful with VR. One, VR can be incredibly addictive. I mean, a lot of things can be addictive to a lot of people, but the experience that VR can provide is a very...
If you had VR Eve, we would never see you again.
Eve Valkyrie is releasing with the Oculus.
Yeah, we'll never see you again once you get a VR headset.
See, I don't care for games like that, though. Well, I should say, it's not that I don't care for games like that. I used the Oculus with...
I'm really going to sound like an idiot for this, but what exactly is Valkyrie? Valkyrie.
Eve Valkyrie is like...
I didn't look into it, sorry.
Think of it like Star Citizen or...
So
Elite
it's basically,
Dangerous.
So it's basically going first person in the Eve universe?
Yeah, you're a fighter pilot in the Eve universe. And, outside of that, it connects to the larger Eve universe in ways that they have not revealed yet. They just have said that it's part of their Eve thing.
Sort of like the first-person shooter that was on consoles?
Yeah, that is still part of the game, but nobody ever talks about it anymore, so... I mean, they still advertise it, so I'm guessing that it's doing well enough that they haven't pulled it yet, but...
Well,
nobody ever talks about it.
What options does console players have for shooters?
Fair enough. I think it's also only on Sony consoles, like it's a PlayStation exclusive. Which kind of sucks, because it looked neat. I would play it. But we're getting off topic. Yeah, Valkyrie
there's something new.
Valkyrie is just like a first-person cockpit fighter game in space with Eve stuff. I mean, it looks cool, but, it's one of those things that I'm not a super huge fan of. Like, well, I don't know why I need Oculus for this. But anyways, so, I mean, her general sentiments were, I think people should be careful because this is a technology that many people don't understand. And that it would be really cool, but it's, generally too expensive for the average household. I mean, those were like the overall general sentiments. We had a decent conversation about it, but I mean, I guess you kind of brought up the addictive part right there, but how do you feel about that otherwise? Like,
it's an interesting angle that I didn't really consider, the addictive part, especially whenever you can combine it with games that are already addictive. Eve, for example, but even MMOs. Imagine, World of Warcraft's probably a bad example just because it's a third-person game, but also it's a bit on the down climb. But Imagine a super popular MMO that hooks into a VR headset. I mean, there's novels about this. Ready Player One is exactly this.
Sword Art Online. What's the other one that recently came out? Log Horizon.
Yeah. I mean, this is science fiction becoming science fact.
That's true. I mean, this year, one of the biggest kind of science fiction tropes is about to become reality.
I mean, granted, I don't think that they're going to hide a microwave emitter in this headset to kill people.
To fry your brain when you die in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, just, I sat around and I thought about it for a little while, and that's kind of why I mentioned, the families and stuff. Basically, you're shutting yourself off from everyone else. But I mean, they are a lot like a sensory deprivation tank. You put on the headset, you put on your headphones, and you go play games for 2 hours. And,
Yeah, but to be fair, a lot of people are like that already. You put on your headset, turn up the music or the game or whatever, and you're in your own little world. You're just looking at a screen instead of having it directly in front of your eyes. It's literally just moving the screen forward about 2 to 3 feet.
That's true. The people with the addictive personalities are already doing something for their addiction. I mean, honestly, I don't have a very addictive personality, but there have been games that have came out that I have.
Eve?
Honestly, I haven't done that bad with Eve compared to some of the other games in the past. Like I've said before, the good thing about Eve is that for the most part, you can just get up and walk away from it, and it can keep doing its thing. Some people that I know have gotten on to me for saying you can't play the game that way, but I mean, I have a life that dictates that I play the game that way. Otherwise, I, hurt my family. I don't want to do that. But I could see Oculus doing that to a lot of people who generally otherwise don't have that problem. It's just we use the word immersive all the time in the gaming industry, in the the gaming world. Like, how immersive is this experience? How much can I believe this world? The VR headset is probably, at least in our lifetime, the closest we'll ever get to actually being inside of a video game.
Until the holodeck gets invented.
Yeah. And I have to admit that that's a little bit of a scary prospect to think about. I know that we're getting dangerously close to a philosophical discussion here, but, this is something that I haven't heard anyone say. And I totally get the enthusiasts want it, the people who already immerse themselves like this, building those huge, like, flight machine contraptions,
several $1,000 cockpit simulated.
Yeah,
on hydraulic pistons to move you backwards and forwards to simulate G forces.
Yeah, I know that the people who already do that sort of thing, they probably won't have a problem with that, but to the average gamers who just want to be closer to a world that they've already immersed themselves in, like, this could get dangerous for them. I hope that we don't see any more news headlines that could be
tragic.
Yeah, that could be tragic and ammunition that politicians and people who have no idea what they're talking about could use against us. But
yeah, I'm really hoping that it's put off long enough for these politicians to die. And what?
Nope, that was funny. Go ahead, keep going.
For these politicians to die and new ones to get elected that know what the hell video games are.
Right.
Because that's probably one of the most frustrating things, and I'm getting way off topic and possibly ranting a little bit because I grew up in the 90s, and I remember the moral outrage of Mortal Kombat, for example.
Right.
So once VR gets out there, I'm bringing it back around now. Once VR gets out there and there's these guys that get lost in this virtual world and let their kids starve to death because they've been playing games for 2 days straight.
Right. I mean, that happens now occasionally, particularly in Asian countries where that sort of lifestyle, being immersed in something so deeply that you ignore everything else is a lot more prominent. But I mean, that does happen now.
Yeah, but once VR comes out and these people get these headsets and just immerse themselves where they're neglecting everything and letting people that depend on them down to the point of death, I'm afraid of politicians trying to legislate VR. Can you imagine having to sign a license or get a license for a VR headset?
Oh my gosh, that would be so awful. That would be. They did that this year for drones. If you have a drone now, you have to. If you, I can't remember exactly what the statutes are, but if you've had a drone in like
it's
last
more
year,
than pretty much just a palm size, if I recall correctly. It was a very small requirement. I can't remember exactly what it was, but
right.
Yeah, you have to register with the FAA.
Yep.
Basically, to try to catch people that. Well, there was a story. I want to say last summer, of people actually impeding the fighting of a forest fire because they were flying their drones around and trying to get pretty pictures of it.
Yep.
And the helicopters that were coming in with buckets of water to dump on this fire couldn't get the airspace because there was all these drones flying around like flies over a turd.
Right.
There's a lovely image for you, by the way.
Yeah, great image. And I mean, this real quick, and then we'll get back to video games. But I mean, a helicopter could easily smash a drone, but in turn, a drone could do enough damage to a helicopter to bring it down.
Yeah, a helicopter blade doesn't take that much damage to become, rather unstable. A helicopter blade requires a very fine balance.
Yeah, extremely fine. I mean, not like so fine that if you like, I think MythBusters did a thing one time where they put a postage stamp.
A stamp or something.
Right, and I mean that didn't cause the helicopter to crash, but
yeah, but was a very. I don't think they tested it to the point of failure because helicopters are expensive.
Yeah.
But I do think that it was a pretty small margin.
Yeah, and I mean, hitting a drone with a helicopter blade would be enough to either break it or warp it enough that a helicopter would, at the very least, have to be grounded. It might even crash.
Yeah, especially some of these more meteor drones out there.
Yeah.
Because there's some big ones.
I've got a big one. I got one for Christmas a couple of years ago. It's a big one.
Wait, are we still talking about drones?
You wish. Bringing this back around, though, to VR, I do want to say we're about to get off of this kind of depressing and sobering topic. I don't want these things to happen. Like, we don't want these things to happen. We want VR to be successful and for the market to thrive. But, I mean, there is a reality here that somebody has to acknowledge, and I haven't heard or read anyone else acknowledge it. So that's what we're doing here on Video Game Logic, taking a moment to acknowledge the very real and somber things that can happen due to addiction and misuse.
And the stupid things politicians do.
Yeah.
To try to combat the stupidity of people, because there's two things infinite in the universe. Well, the universe and human stupidity. And Einstein wasn't quite sure about the universe.
Thank you for adding a little bit of humor into that. So a few other things about VR. The VR more than likely is here to stay, even if it remains a fairly niche product, which I don't think it will. Do you think it will, or do you think it... I don't think you ever said, or if you did, I missed it.
I do think it's going to remain niche at least for quite a while. I don't think it's going to take... I don't think we're going to be having to hunt down computer monitors, for example.
Right. What?
Just because it's really a single person thing. I mean, if you think about it, a computer cannot run two of these VR headsets at all.
No. Well,
there's just no way to do it. So any participation, it has to be a single person. There's going to be no multiplayer, no local multiplayer, even though that is kind of a rarity with PC games. That is still a thing to think about. And the fact that PCs are flexible enough to output to television. So that's a bit of a different thing there.
The Vive has had some very controlled local multiplayer tests where that they have done things, although they're very much tech demos, so we don't know if that will actually become a thing. But
yeah, and I will fully admit that I haven't kept up on VR nearly as much as I probably should be talking about this.
I keep up with it fairly well. I think that's a very interesting topic, despite the fact that I'm not super into it, because I think it is where a large, or at least a portion of the industry is going to go over the next few years.
Well, I just look at it this way. All this talk about VR seems very, very familiar. I grew up in the 90s. I remember the Virtual Boy. I remember all the talk about VR. and it went away.
Well, we were briefly
I
discussing
don't think it's going to
earlier.
happen this time.
Yeah, we were briefly discussing this earlier. Technology's come a long way since the 90s.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to go away this time, but I don't think it's as big a deal as people are trying to make it. Partly because people are riding the hype train and just are going absolutely nuts. It's the opposite side of our first story where people were going absolutely nuts in a negative way. I think they're going absolutely nuts in a sort of fanboyish, cultish way for VR.
Yeah. I actually went and browsed the Oculus subreddit, and for every post that was somebody saying, yeah, Oculus is the best, it's amazing, this is so great, there was another post that was like, hey, let's do a reality check here. People are going to be coming to us to find out all this information on the internet who perhaps have not been interested until the release window was made available, and let's not go crazy. It was actually very nice to see a good portion of the community. I mean, at least 50%, I think more. And I mean, you think that usually subreddits tend to be the vocal minority, be it positive or negative, for something. Mm-hmm. It was really nice to see that a good portion of the community was saying, hey, we still, even though we have a release date, we have a price, we have the DK2, they've made a lot of changes into the release version, the specs have changed a lot, let's just cool it, stick to the facts, and wait till it comes out, and we get some reviews in. So, I mean, definitely, there's those people out there online that are, oh my gosh, it's amazing, it's the best thing ever, but there's plenty of people out there that thankfully are saying, hey, let's not do that until we know for sure.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's a lot easier to pay attention to the outliers, the ones that are making the big noise, both positive and negative.
Agreed. And while this is kind of an apples to oranges comparison, I think the big difference between the Oculus people and the Punch Club people comes from the money. Punch Club is a $10 game on Steam that pretty much anybody could buy. The Oculus is a $600 piece of technology that requires at least $1,000 to $1,200 investment beforehand to make it run. Not a lot of people do that. I mean, I consider myself to be on the low end of an enthusiast, and the only reason I don't have a better build is because I didn't have the money to do so. I bought the best that I could with what I had.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty much the same here, only my system is older.
Yeah. So, I think that's the thing. It's like the people that have the money to do that more often than not are older people who are, I don't want to say more intelligent, but perhaps more intelligent, at least more patient. They've got kind of the wisdom and experience that comes with being middle-aged at the very least. So, the question that I was going to ask you, though, several minutes ago was, how do you feel about the VR games market? Like, I think that VR is going to... Okay, let me explain, or let me give you my answer, because I just realized I asked that question very poorly. Okay. A lot of times with kind of products that are cutting edge, be they gimmicky products like motion control stuff, or actual technological advancements like VR and AR, they suffer from a lack of available software. But VR has the added benefit that basically anything that's a first-person game, especially more modern games that have been coded in Unity and what's the other engine that has? I want to see, it's the Unreal Engine, have got switches basically that you flip to activate VR support. So I think that they'll get a nice boost, at least at the beginning, from having all of these games that can just flip a switch and say, okay, it works with VR now.
Well, I think Source is also working on that. I know at least Team Fortress 2 has that option.
There's several engines.
And TF2 tends to be like the testing ground for a lot of Source things.
Yeah. There's several engines that have VR support, but my two examples were just the easiest ones. They literally have a toggle that's like, do you want this game to work with virtual reality out of the box? Yes or no?
I think they're really addressing the chicken and egg problem with a lot of new hardware, or new innovative hardware, I should say, really well. At least on the non-VR required side, be able to play Euro Truck Simulator or Elite Dangerous or Team Fortress 2 with your Oculus is going to sell a fair amount of units right off the bat.
Yeah.
Just because there is something to do with this hardware. You're not going to get it and have like all the tech demos and then wait for the developers to come out with something, or maybe have a handful of games that you could play. There's games that you could play with the hardware now.
Right. And I think that they're doing a good thing of bundling Eve Valkyrie with all of the... I don't know if it's just the pre-orders or if it's kind of the first run of the Oculus.
It was Eve Valkyrie, and there was a second game, and I'm blanking on what the game was, and I didn't pull up the pre-order page.
I'm also pulling it up.
Yeah, it looks like a third-person platformer, which is weird.
Yeah. Okay, so the Oculus comes with Eve Valkyrie and Lucky's Tale, which is a platformer.
Third-person platformer from the looks of it.
A third person just doesn't work in VR. It's...
Oh no, maybe it could, because one problem with third-person platformers is the feeling of depth. So maybe a VR headset will address that.
That's actually a very valid point. I was approaching it from the fact that if you're wearing a VR headset, you're expecting to be in a first-person view, so the disconnect between first and third person just seems insurmountable in that respect. Like, you would just be so disconnecting. But actually, that makes a lot of sense. That's one of the main reasons that 3D platformers suffer.
Or first-person platformers, even.
Or first-person platformers, yeah. Your depth perception is all wrong.
Yeah, really the only platformers that don't have any sort of depth problem are 2D side-scrollers.
Yeah, that's why there's so many of them. I mean, they work.
So maybe the Oculus will be the answer to a problem that we didn't really think of VR until just now.
I mean, if that's the case, that's great. It would be... I mean, Oculus is a niche for sure, at least right now, but it would be nice if they could carve out their own little pieces of the industry that it's like, hey, this works best on Oculus. And for some reason, it feels silly to me to say that a platform would work best in VR, but...
Yeah, it's something I didn't really think of until we took a look at the other game that it came with, because I completely forgot that there was a second game. I knew that there was, I just forgot what it was.
Right. How do you feel about the Oculus coming with a controller?
I had a second part of what I wanted to talk about first.
Okay.
I want to call it basically third-party support for VR. The games that don't require VR but has the option. I think that's going to sell a lot of units. The problem is going to be the VR required games. Those are going to be a hard sell, because like we talked about, was that this is going to be an enthusiast piece,
right?
So you're going to have very, very small numbers out there, at least for the first generation, which was addressed in Reddit AMA, where they said that the first generation they're expecting to last somewhere between a console and a mobile phone lifespan, with much closer to the mobile phone. So that puts it approximately 1 to 3 years before Generation 2 Oculus comes out.
I would say that would be firmly 2 years. Most phone generations are 2 years. I mean, you see new phones come out every year, but they're on cycles. I mean, you're not as much into... Didn't you not own a cell phone before?
I've owned them before. I haven't really had a requirement for them. I don't go out that much. And until recently, I lived in a place that had absolutely crappy cell phone service.
Right.
To get any signal, I'd basically have to go out of the house, down the alley, down the main road, and hold up my phone and try to get a signal.
Right. Aside from the iPhone, most phones are on a biannual release. And then most phone manufacturers make multiple phones. So they have a new phone that comes out every year, but the actual phone, the actual model usually only gets upgraded every 2 years.
So Model A may not be replaced by Model B in the next year, but Model 1 may be replaced by Model 2 the next year.
Yeah, sure. I think that's what I was saying.
Well, I was more clarifying for myself.
Right. So I think, I figured 2 years will be that cycle from...
Yeah, and I think Generation 2 is probably going to be a lot more affordable than Gen 1, because the hardware would be a lot cheaper. at the same performance price, unless they decide to keep basically the quality that they. That's something that they talked about in the Ask Me Anything, is that they wanted to have this extremely high build quality, which I'm not opposed to, but at the same time, it's driving up the price.
Right.
As our mutual friend Jim, who is basically a conductor on the hype train for Oculus, was talking about, is that a difference of $300 isn't that much when you're looking at it as a whole package of the computer and the headset.
Yeah, that is true. Absolutely. I think that for this first generation, build quality needs to be at the top of their list, because if it screws up, like if there's a massive failure, tons of units fail because of...
Yeah, if there's a stuck pixel or a dead pixel, you are going to notice that.
I mean,
Can you imagine getting your $600 headset? Well, let's put it $800 or $900 after shipping and all the taxes and everything. Put it on, and there's a dead pixel right in the middle of your vision.
That would be so annoying. I'd be so sad.
They better accept refunds or replacements on that.
But, if they actually have a build issue on the first generation, I don't know if that would, completely kill VR, but it might completely kill Oculus as a company. It's like you've been hyping this for years and years and years, and it's like you don't deliver on your first product that is costing us all this money.
Yeah, and they said that they're not making a lot of money on these headsets.
No. Yeah, Facebook helped them subsidize the cost of them. That $2 billion buyout, what was it, last year before last? Something like that.
Yeah, it was quite a while ago.
Yeah. So, I think in future models we'll see the quality drop, but, I mean, that'll be part of the overall price drop. Technology maturing.
Going from enthusiast to more general user.
Right, yeah. We'll see enthusiasts drop down to kind of...
I do think if they're smart, they'll continue to have an enthusiast model.
Oh, I'm sure they will. Absolutely. I mean, I couldn't imagine.
Maybe call it like the Oculus 2 Plus or 2X or something like that.
The Rift
that is the
Plus.
enthusiast model, but while the Oculus 2 is a little bit lower resolution, doesn't have quite as good build quality, and it's probably about $200 or $300 cheaper.
I'd say that the Oculus 2 will just be the original Oculus Rift. They'll change the design of, like, the physical design of it a little bit to make it look differently, and it'll just be the same technology, except it'll be cheaper in the future. I mean, that's my prediction. Could be wrong.
It really depends on how computers run performance-wise in 2 to 3 years.
That's true. But, I mean, in 2 to 3 years, the standard computing power always goes up. I mean, my graphics card was the equivalent of the 970 about 3 or 4 years ago, and now it's just a really good mid-range card.
Yeah, I bought a upper mid-range card 3 years ago, almost 4 now, and it's towards the bottom tier, and I need to upgrade.
So, I don't...
But getting all the way back around, I do think that VR-only games are going to be the tough sell. Just because there's just so many hurdles to jump. I do think that there will be VR-only games, but they're going to be small. They're going to be additions to a game that's already out.
Right.
And you're asking about the package deal.
Yeah. I was going to say, how do you feel about them including the Xbox One controller with them? I think it's really good that they include the headset.
Yeah.
Well,
having a VR headset include the headset is probably a good thing. Otherwise, you end up with a Virtual Boy and you have this little tripod that you have to put your face to.
Right. You know what? I screwed up. I read that as kind of headphones.
Yeah, but keep that in because that is what the Virtual Boy was. Was it literally set on a tripod?
Yep. Nope.
There was no strap or anything. You were looking into it.
Yeah, that was totally my bad. I read that as headphones, not headset. Yeah, you need that. That's got to be in there. But the sensors and the cables have got to be in there.
But it's good that they learned from Nintendo.
Absolutely. And then Eve Valkyrie and Lucky's Tale are being bundled with it. But how do you feel about the controller? I don't really feel like that's necessary as part of the
Yeah,
package.
I think a lot of these people are a lot of the people that are going to go for these headsets. Then the complete package.
Oh yeah.
A lot of people are going to have controllers already, but maybe this is to sort of a catch-all. I've heard a lot of people saying that this basically standardizes the controls of what the Oculus is going to be expected to be usable by, both the gamepad and that little remote control that they were including as well.
I get that as an explanation and an argument, but the Xbox controller format is already the standard gamepad format
pretty
for
much.
PC. Any game that has
the
controller
only competing
props.
the only competing standard right now. Well, actually, there's two now. I think about it. There's the PlayStation 4 DualShock 4. Is it DualShock 3?
It's the DualShock 4.
I think it's DualShock 4. Okay, I wanted to double check. The DualShock 4, which still runs off of an X input, basically emulating a Xbox controller. Only difference is basically the touchpad.
Right.
And then there's the Steam controller.
Yeah, the Steam controller's not competition yet. It might
but it is catching on big time.
Yeah, it'll probably get there, but it's not there yet. And yeah, most PlayStation...
And that is also still emulating either a keyboard and mouse or an Xbox controller.
Right. So, I mean, the Xbox is the golden standard. So, I mean, most of your third-party controllers emulate an Xbox controller. Or, copy its basic function as close as they can without breaking the trademark. Would it be trademark or would it be copyright on the controller? I don't know.
I think that patents. I think Microsoft licensed out the X input.
Yeah, but the actual design of the controller, like the third-party controllers, copy it. I'm
pretty sure it'd be trademark, or I'm sorry, copyright.
Whatever it is, they get like as close as they can to it.
Well, that's part of the reason why no controller outside of Nintendo has a decent D-pad, because Nintendo owns the patent on it.
Right.
I probably it's just patent in general and not trademark or copyright.
Yeah, Microsoft probably has the patents on all of the designs that are very similar to it, and then just everyone else has to get as close to it as they can. But, I mean, the point is that I don't feel like it's necessary. If you're the kind of person that is going to be purchasing an Oculus Rift, either you know how to play using the keyboard with a VR headset on, or you have a controller, or you have another control method for the games you're going to play it with. Either a HOTAS or a steering setup for car games. And I just don't feel like it's necessary, and it's definitely going to be driving the price up. I don't think that...
according to the AMA, it actually didn't cost them all that much, probably because of being subsidized once again by Facebook.
That's true.
Remember, hit the like button to be able to play your game.
That's true. I mean, that Facebook money, for as much as people were hating on it and joking about it, really did buy them a low entry point. I don't see how anyone could beat this price without taking a huge loss on it. Because, I mean, they've got $2 billion back in them. They can buy Xbox controllers and stuff like that and still put it all together for this price point. I think the only company that could come close is Vive, the HTC Vive, just because Samsung is the one who's manufacturing that. And Samsung is, I believe, the second largest. They're either the second or the first largest mobile phone manufacturer. iPhone is the other one. So, I mean, that's a multi-billion dollar. Oh, that's the dishwasher. It'll be all right. But yeah, I mean, they're a multi-billion dollar industry, but I don't know how much money that they're willing to put into subsidizing the cost of these unproven units.
Yeah, I think it's going to go the motion control route. Wow, that actually sounds bad now that I was going to say
that sounds really bad. What do you mean by that?
Okay. It's going to at least go the first half of the motion control routes, where Nintendo puts out this innovative thing, and then everyone sees it catching on and opening up gaming for people that never really were into gaming before.
Right.
And then you're going to see other companies jump in. You're going to see basically the equivalent of the PlayStation Move or the Kinect for VR.
Right.
And it's really up to the developers and partly the consumers, depending on if they get it out of the enthusiast market or not, of if it fulfills the second half of the prophecy of it basically just going nowhere. That's actually a really good analogy. Is it going to fulfill the second half of the prophecy of movement controls?
Yeah, that actually is. I feel like that's a pretty good comparison because movement controls came out of nowhere as like this huge market innovation. Like everyone copied them, everyone expected them to go far, and they turned into a huge flop. And I mean, I don't want VR to be a huge flop, but that's kind of what this is. Like the hype train is huge for virtual reality, and it's about to make its debut onto the greater market. The question is it going to be a huge flop in the end, or is it going to actually catch on and stick around as more than just a niche market? Because
is it going to be a Kinect where it's just going to gather dust in the corner after playing with it twice?
You shut your dirty whore mouth. I love my Kinect. I really do.
You come over here and make me.
I'm one of the few. I love talking to my Xbox and telling it to do things.
You love your dancing games, don't you?
As a guilty pleasure.
Is there anything but a dancing game on Kinect nowadays?
No. Everything that they really tried to do outside of that was just a huge failure because the original Kinect wasn't precise enough.
And no one wanted to take a second chance on it, which once again comes all the way back around to our initial point of they needed to do a good job with the initial release.
Right.
And if it starts frying people's brains, either literally or metaphorically, there's going to be big problems.
Yeah, I think we're a long way away from the Sword Art Online version of a VR headset, but eventually we'll get there. Eventually.
Also, you want the microwave attachment.
Well, I mean, it might be worth it. I mean, I like...
Talk about playing hardcore mode.
That's super hardcore mode. Die in the game, die in real life, but until you die, it's a great experience.
Hope you're not playing something that desyncs. Like, can you imagine your last words? Wait,
So is that all we have to say on this huge rambling topic of VR?
I think so.
I mean, we covered a whole bunch of it. I'm sure that there'll be more conversations about it in the coming days, but
the coming weeks as more info comes out. I doubt this is the last time we're going to talk about this subject, just because there's going to be other headsets coming out. The Vive, like you said, the Gear. Is the Gear completely out, or is it still?
Yeah, the Gear's completely out. The Gear VR was the first VR headset. It wasn't the first VR headset to hit the market, but it was the first high-profile headset to hit the market.
I will say this, that Oculus or someone needs to really get the retail market into this and get kiosks out there and get the general public to experience VR outside of a trade show.
Yeah.
I mean, I look at the stores around me and I hate to say it this way, but at least in the United States, Oculus needs to get into basically Walmart.
Yeah. Let's see. That buy the Gear VR.
Well, let's put it this way: to get to a computer specialist shop or a place that is mostly electronics based, I'll drive past 3 Walmarts.
Yeah.
And for a lot of the country, it's basically the same thing. Unless they specifically kept Walmart out of the area, which is, well, probably on the list of good things because Walmart's kind of killed all the competition in this area. But that's a little bit more political than we probably want to get into.
Probably. Looks like you can only buy the Gear. Okay. That's it. Okay. I love you too, babe. I'll cut this out, or maybe it'll be the outtake.
Oh, no love for me.
But yeah, it looks like you can only buy.
I feel so unloved.
No, poor Rage. Looks like you can only buy the Gear VR online, and it's $99. When I saw it, it was I think $200 or maybe 150. So it's definitely come
Yeah,
down
but
in
once
price.
again, it's the phone.
That's true. True. You got to have a really expensive phone. It only runs on 4 phones, and it looks like the cheapest one of the phones is $650.
Yeah, assuming that you don't get it subsidized through your contract in any way.
True, but in that case, you're still paying. Actually, you're paying more for that over time because you're a contract. But the cost that the consumer sees is probably $200 or $300 for the phone plus $100 for the VR. But yeah, you can still only get them online. I mean, people need to be able to look at these things because me and you and other people that are into the gaming community, the tech community, stuff like that, we know about it. But I bet my mom would love this actually, but she has no idea what it is. She's never heard of it.
Yeah, and she's not going to go to a trade show. She's not going to go to E3 to try this.
No. And they need to be selling these headsets to my mom. All of them. Sell all the headsets to my mother.
Well, once again, we come back to the Wii, where Nintendo opened up gaming to different demographics that weren't the core gamer and thrived on it, at least for a while.
Yep. My mom bought a Wii. And then I used that to get her into other video games that are much better. But, I mean, she bought a Wii.
Wow, shots fired.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I got her into World of Warcraft. And an Xbox. She bought an Xbox 360 after she got a Wii. Because she liked games on the Wii. And I was like, there's a lot better games out there than, your weird motion control puzzle game and underwater sea turtle land. But
they have weird games.
I don't remember the name of it, but it was a game that was about being underwater creatures, and they had a giant sea turtle on the front of the box, and you could unlock the Loch Ness Monster and swim around in the ocean as the Loch Ness Monster. My mom was so happy when she got the Loch Ness Monster. I was like, you have put so much time into this game. Let's actually play something that's good. But, yep, sell VR headsets to my mom, and we'll just see how this develops. But I feel, it felt really good to actually talk about that like a grown-up. Because the conversations that I've had with everyone that I know about VR, which is not very many people, admittedly, but usually go one of two ways. Either VR's stupid, it'll never succeed, I don't know why people want it, or VR's the best thing in the whole world, everyone will go get VR eventually, and if you disagree with me, you're an idiot. And I fall somewhere in the middle. Personally, I lean more on the not interested side, but I see its appeal and feel like it's here to stay. So,
well, I just like I said, I've seen this before, so I'm tempered my expectations of VR until I'm able to try a headset. And the first company that gets the kiosks out there into the retail market is going to succeed.
Yeah,
I hate to say this. It pains me to say this. They need the Walmarts. They need the Best Buys. I would say the Circuit Cities, but Circuit City is dead. Radio Shack is dead.
Staples still exists, but I don't know anybody that goes into Staples that's going to buy a VR headset.
But yeah, they need to get into these more general areas, and really the first one that does that succeeds.
Right. Totally agree with you. As much as I dislike the traditional marketplace in favor of the online marketplace, they've got to get these things in people's hands.
Yeah, I would not buy a VR headset without trying it first. And maybe the other option is to have some sort of trial system where you're able to try it for a month.
Right. That would be difficult to implement, but that would be...
Yeah. That's the tough choice. That's the tough route. Getting into retail stores as a kiosk would be a lot simpler.
Yeah. So, now that we've talked through our
rambling discussion of VR.
Yeah, all of our major topics.
Going very off topic at several times.
Yeah, but it was good. Good discussion. Let's round up with our Steam weekly deal suggestions.
Well, you don't want to check on the mail?
Oh yeah. I guess it's my turn to skip this week. Open up the mailbag for us there, Rage.
Okay. Oh, listen to the crickets once again.
Yep. Still no new stuff. Aside from, again, a couple more YouTube comments. Which reminds me, I did get the RSS feed completely fixed. I gave up trying to do it on my own and found what a lot of people said was the best free RSS feed generating service. So now we have a FeedBurner feed, which...
Yeah, how's iTunes looking?
I'm still waiting. It's been submitted, and I got the email that said that your podcast had been successfully submitted, but they have up to a 3-week turnaround time. And since we submitted...
they're probably listening to us and thinking, what the hell?
But they probably, I suspect, either have a big influx at the holidays where people get new equipment and they want to, start a podcast, or people take time off. So we've been waiting for a week now, roughly, and we've got 2 more weeks before we get into the point where it's like, well, either they've forgotten us or something happened.
Or I've insulted Apple one too many times over the years.
Me too. I've insulted Apple quite a lot.
Well, what can I say? I think gamer. What?
That was funny. You say things that are funny, okay?
Occasionally.
Let me just check my email real quick. Yeah.
Was there any YouTube comments that you want to address? Because I got none of mine.
The only YouTube comments that I got were from a person who had messaged me or commented on YouTube before about how the feed wasn't working. And he said that the feed was now working in his podcast app. And I said, yay, that's good.
And there was much rejoicing.
There was much rejoicing.
Hooray.
Let's do a quick look actually at the FeedBurner, because it updates every 24 hours. And the first update that I checked, we had 3 subscribers. Oh, we have 12 subscribers.
Wow.
Yeah. That's on FeedBurner.
There's literally a dozen out there.
There are literally a dozen people right now who are listening to us.
Goal for next week. Dozens.
Yeah, dozens. Seriously, guys, though, if you enjoy listening to us, please push us on all your friends. We are shameless, and we will gladly be pushed.
Especially you.
Especially me, yeah. We will gladly be pushed onto as many of your friends as you want to push us on. And this might sound a little bit like begging. I promise I'm not begging yet.
Much.
We really enjoy doing this. I mean, I have a blast doing it, and I want to keep doing it. And if we have even just a little bit of support, not even just monetary, just support from a small community that can form around us, I'll keep doing it for that.
I do have to wonder, since we are technically a spinoff from Kerbalcast,
right?
What did that crew think for this? Because we both submit stuff over there as regular contributors.
Right. So far, I haven't heard anything from them, although several of the Kerbalcast listeners have contacted me to say that they listen to the podcast, usually through Steam, but I know of 4 or 5.
Well, I've gotten no comments myself. I'm not sure I'm not sure how to take that, actually.
Well, out of the two of us...
Am I that tough to approach?
I don't think so. Just out of the 2 of us, I'm the more prolific figure. I mean, I'm the one who's constantly calling myself the Kerbalcast community manager and randomly adding people on Steam.
Yeah, you're more shameless than me.
I'm extremely shameless. I don't care. View my stuff. Let's see. I'm looking at my YouTube views too. I got 4.
Gaming with Caffeine Rage on YouTube.com.
There you go.
I'm learning from you.
Yeah, I got 14 views on the YouTube version of this.
I only got 5.
I did not post this one to Reddit though. The first 2 I posted to Reddit. I didn't post this one to Reddit. So
mine just went into the feed.
But yeah, we got 12 subscribers.
But that's enough about numbers.
Any number that's bigger than 0 is good in my book.
Yeah, but we would love to hear from you.
Yeah, seriously, we would love to hear from you. More
because
tweets.
Because we know you're out there.
More tweets, more YouTube messages.
Maybe that we should have a dedicated Twitter thing, but we both have a fairly decent Twitter account already.
Yeah, so we'll see.
We should probably just do a hashtag.
Yeah, we could do a hashtag. Hashtag video game logic. Although that hashtag probably exists already.
Maybe this is something we should check off account.
I'm
or
on
off episode.
Let's see. Search Twitter for hashtag video game logic.
Oh, you're going to have so much fun editing this.
No, I'll probably leave most of this in. Who cares if it's long? It's our podcast. We make it as long as we want to. I mean, we like to try
I know
and stick.
VGL is very popular right now.
Yeah, video game logic is a very much used hashtag. But hey, it's popular, so could shamelessly put up the podcast there and see if it draws any views.
Or just go VGL Podcast.
Yeah.
The same as the email account.
Yeah. VGLpodcast@gmail.com. Send in your letters, suggestions, discussion topics, or angry rants. We'll take them all and we'll read them all. Or listen to them all. Audio content is welcome. If we like it well enough, we'll play it on the show. Bam. Right off the top of my head. I'm good at that.
Bravo.
So, are you ready to move on to our recommendations?
Yeah, our Steam weekly sale recommendations. Maybe someday the other stores will be large enough that we could include them as well.
That would be a lot of recommendations, though. GOG and EA Origin. I mean, 2 games from each of those would be 6 games.
We don't have to do games from all of them, just the top one or the top couple.
Or we could rotate. Just follow the deals. Anyways, so 2 as always. I actually had 2 positive ones this week.
As did I.
You wanna?
And I actually played both of mine.
I have also played both of mine.
Wow, we're stepping into territory we've never been before. We actually may know what we're talking about.
Well, I always try to pick games that I know what I'm talking about. Try.
I pick games that either I have at least informed or I played a little bit, but the first one I played quite a bit.
All right, you go first.
My first one is Spaz, Space Pirates and Zombies, and Bounty Hunters.
Spaz. I love Spaz. So good, Total Biscuit does the opening narration on that one as well.
Yeah, I will say that Total Biscuit's narration isn't exactly that great, though.
Blasphemous.
He's a bit monotone.
No, I agree with you. He's pretty monotone, but just like hearing him is like, oh, yeah. I have to say the base game of Spaz, though, is a good game, but it's got a lot of problems. I play modded, where that my fleet can be larger. You have to adjust the game balance a little bit, but I think in the stock game you can only have 4 ships at once.
I will say that it's been a while since I played it. I played it after the Bounty Hunter expansion that the free expansion that they put out, which makes it Spaz H, or sorry, Spaz B, I should say.
Spaz B.
Spaz B.
I have not played the Bounty Hunter expansion, but I have.
It's an interesting add-on. It basically, if you're a bit evil, you get bounty hunters that show up, and it adds another faction to deal with.
Okay. I never actually beat the story. I played it quite a bit, but
me either. I have 40 hours in the game, but part of that was that I think I made the galaxy too big. It's we should probably go into what exactly Spaz is. It's a 2D, partly procedurally generated top-down shooter where you're controlling essentially a capital ship and a bunch of little fighters or little other ships, and just going around doing stuff, really.
Right.
There is a story, of course, that basically, as most games with the Galaxy, you're trying to get to the galactic center for reasons. I actually can't remember the reasons off the top of my head because it's been years since I played.
You're trying to find some kind of artifact or something.
Yeah, it's something like that.
But you said fighters, but as the game progresses, you get larger and larger ships that can form your fleet. In the stock game, I believe you can only get 4. It might be 5 max outside of your mothership. But one of the mods for the game really increases that limit. Which I do believe
the modding community has really taken off over the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's got quite a few mods. I played it last year, and I don't remember what the name of the mod was called, but it was basically a rebalance mod that lets you have more ships in your fleet, so you felt more like you were enjoying the fleet aspect and the shipbuilding aspect of it. But it did make the game harder to compensate for the fact that you had roughly 2 times as many ships available to you at all times.
Now, I will say that the game can get grindy, especially if you make the galaxy too big. Essentially, the galaxy size is sort of a pseudo difficulty slider, because the smaller the galaxy, the larger the jump between individual star systems would be level-wise. So a large galaxy very small jump in difficulty between the different stores, the more stuff that you could do to level up as you progress around, because you essentially go through different gates to get to. Think of it as basically a ring system, with the outer rim being the lowest level and the galactic core being the highest. And you have to go through certain gate systems in order to access the next ring down. So as you travel around, you're leveling up and getting all sorts of goodies. But also it's spreading out the upgrades that you could get. So to get an upgrade, you may have to go halfway across the galaxy to be able to work up a reputation. Each star system, if I recall correctly, the reputations are individual systems and not a general galactic rep.
Yes, that is correct. And then you had to reach a certain rep level with the faction before they would let you use the jump gates. Or you could just basically be a pirate and kill everything and then use the jump gate that way. But
yeah, so you have to build up your rep each time, or just take it by force.
Yeah.
Which, depending on the system, may be very difficult.
And there's a lot of consequences in the end game as well. Spoiler alert. The zombies portion of the Space Pirates and Zombies name is kind of the end game, and these alien zombie things come and start taking over ships and crews, and the more disheveled you leave the galaxy, the easier chance that they have to spread. And that's kind of your failure state. If they take over, you lose. Or if you die.
And also, they're pretty tough.
They're extremely tough.
They're pretty tough if you have the wrong ship, I should say.
And what really sucks is that they can take your ships. And then, your own ships, which are usually much better than the ships that the AI is using, start getting used against you.
So it's something to really watch out for. It's currently 50% off, which brings it down to $4.99 US, or your regional equivalent.
It's very easily worth $4.99. Very easily. Great game.
Yeah, like I said, I have over 40 hours in it, and I didn't beat the game. Granted, like I also talked about, was I made the galaxy much larger, so don't make it too large.
I think I'm going to install Space Pirates and Zombies right now.
Uh-oh.
It's also not a very resource-intensive game, I should say. I played it mostly on my old laptop before I had my gaming PC, and it ran just fine.
You're going to play Eve and Spaz at the same time now, aren't you?
I could, yeah, that'd be fun. 2 space games at the same time. My first game is a little game called Future Wars. It is 75% off at $1.24. If you've ever played Advance Wars for the Game Boy Advance and then Future, like the DS and whatnot, as the series evolved, it's basically a copy of that that's on Steam. And as far as innovation goes, it doesn't really do anything to innovate, but it's cheap. And if you really like Advance Wars and are looking for a cheap copy to play, since currently to purchase Advance Wars, the last time I looked, it was $75 US for the most recent Advance Wars title, because as far as I know, it's a dead series.
Wow. Or you could just emulate it, which is a legal gray area, and something that I would love to talk about at some point.
Absolutely, we'll put it on the list.
It's already on the list.
Oh, good. Then we'll put it in the topics list if we have a slow enough week. We had a really full news week this week. But anyways, Future War is basically just a carbon copy of that. It doesn't have online multiplayer, so it's just a single player game that you can play for a few hours and beat. The main story is actually pretty short, but the list of challenge missions will probably keep you occupied for a while. So,
wow. I'm looking at the reviews on it, and it is mostly negative reviews, sitting at a 28%.
I'm honestly not sure why it gets so many negative reviews. I own it. I've played it. It's not a great game, but it's certainly not deserving of all those negative reviews.
Yeah, well, it looks like at least a few of them are comparing it directly to Advanced Wars.
Yeah, if you really do compare it directly to Advanced Wars, it's not as good. But if you've got a craving that you need to fill, then this is a really good game to fill that craving. It's cheap, it's fun, and, play it for a few hours, get your Advanced Wars in, and then move on. I think it's worth it.
And the basic price isn't that expensive. It's only $5.
Yeah, it's only $5 on sale now for $1.25. It regularly, though, goes on sale. When I purchased it, it was at about 50 cents. I think I bought it during last year's Steam Summer Sale. All right. What's
Okay,
your next
my
game?
second game is essentially a rhythm platformer called Waveform.
Waveform. I've heard of that.
It's an interesting title. Calling it a rhythm platformer is probably about the closest thing I could give to a genre because it's sort of a rhythm platformer, but it's also essentially a puzzle game in the way it plays. You're a particle of light, and you're trying to travel through these weird levels. It's broken down into the solar system, and the idea is basically to hit or it's a score attack game essentially, and getting to the end of the level.
Right.
And you control it instead of jumping around or just moving the particle up and down, left and right. You're controlling the waveform of it. So you're either compressing it to make it tighter, or narrower, or taller, or shorter. So the wave constantly goes up and down the screen, and you're manipulating how quickly or how far it goes up and down the screen. It's an interesting change on. Like I said, it's a weird thing, and even the Steam tags don't know what to call it because it has simulation, single player, and then strategy, which I'm not sure if I would put strategy on it.
Yeah, and then also casual.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which if you look at the screenshots of it, that doesn't look casual to you, does it?
No, it doesn't. Also, I don't feel like casual goes well with simulation and strategy. Let's see.
Yeah, it's a strange game, and there's different little hooks on it as well. There's little portals at times that'll transport you across the screen. So if you hit them with the right waveform, you'll collect all the particles on the other side. And there's mirrors that'll bounce you around. And I've only gotten a few planets in. So there's a lot more that I haven't seen yet. It is a very, very tough game, and there's over 100 advertised levels before you get to the expansion pack, which is sadly not on sale, but it's only $1. And I think it's one to look at least if you're looking for something different.
Yeah, it does look pretty interesting. I don't think it's interesting enough for me to put on my wish list, but this doesn't really fall into the type of game that I like. But it looks neat.
And also, it is dirt cheap. It is 75% off at 49 cents.
Huh. That is really cheap.
So if you're looking for something to basically fill in a gap in a Steam summer or winter sale to get that precious trading card at every $10, Waveform may be it if you're getting something at $9.99.
Yep.
Plus, it is also a pretty good game on top of that.
I think I would buy it in that scenario. That'd be worth it to me.
So now it's gone on the wish list.
Maybe. I'll let it simmer. So the next game on my list is Off-World Resource Base. This is an older space RTS. It came out after... I can't remember if it came out between Homeworld 1 and 2 or after Homeworld 2. It was definitely after Homeworld 1, though, which released in that. It's pretty much a clone of Homeworld 2. And, I mean, it plays exactly like it. So if you're looking for some more Homeworld in your life, but you don't want to spend, $20 or $30 on the new remastered, Off-World Resource Base has got you covered. It's currently $1.24 on Steam at 75% off, which puts its normal price right at $5, so that's not too expensive to start with. I will say the only problem that I have with the game is that it is a pain to make run at proper modern resolutions. It runs natively at a 16:9 aspect ratio, but for some reason, whenever you try to upscale it to 1080p or 900p, it just the UI goes all wonky. I don't think that it's designed with proper scaling. I think that they just designed it to run at the stock resolution settings. But there's a couple of guides online to make it work, and at one point there was some people who were working on a mod to kind of remaster some of the UI elements that were outdated. I don't know if that mod has been completed yet or if it died off, but it's a lot of fun. I mean, if you're, like I said, if you're looking for some more Homeworld in your life, you've played through the Homeworld games, maybe even the Homeworld Remastered game, pick up Offworld Resource Base. It holds up pretty well graphically as well. I mean, it kind of, it's got graphics that age well, I should say. Kind of like how the original Homeworld did, just the aesthetic, and they didn't try to oversell. It's just a good solid game.
I'm not seeing that on the week-long deals.
Let me send you the actual link page for it. I'll put it in the Skype chat.
Sorry to interrupt you there.
No, it's fine. I was pretty much done.
Oh, okay. It's listed under Orb. You may want to mention that.
Okay.
ORB, and not. I was searching Offworld Resource Base and wasn't finding anything.
Okay, I'll just put that part in right there where you said that it's listed under Orb. I didn't realize it was listed under Orb. I just looked it up on, what is this website? SteamDB, and then just clicked the store page.
Yes, I was researching I was trying to find it the entire time you were talking, and it was coming up empty because every time I'd try Offworld or Resource Base, it would come up with nothing because it's listed under Orb. Sometimes acronyms work against you.
Very true.
Speaking of acronyms, it's time to wrap up the podcast for this week. I want to thank everyone for sticking with us for this long through our rather rambling discussion on VR.
Well, I think once we actually cut out all of the dead air, we'll get closer to our usual target time than you think we will.
Perhaps.
I mean, if we keep talking like this, though, eventually we'll run the clock out. It'll be huge. Yeah.
Well, don't you want to be huge?
I'm already huge. I need to be a little less huge.
Only your ego, right?
Yeah, and probably my waistline too.
Well, I unfortunately have to agree with you there. But getting back to acronyms, you could reach us at vglpodcast@gmail.com with your letters, voicemails, or gaming-related topics. Tell us what you want to think. What you want to think. That was terrible. Tell us what you want to think. Tell us what you think of the podcast, or give us suggestions. You can also find both of us on both Twitter and YouTube. I'm at Gaming with Caffeine Rage, while my shrink friend here is at the Gaming Psychologist, and you can also find us on Twitter at Gaming with CR, both underscores or without underscores work. One forwards to the other one. Or the shrink is at JMA4707. Our intro and outro music is On the Ground by Kevin MacLeod. And you can find his work at incompetech.com.
Hey, you got that right on the first time.
I've been practicing.
Well, that's good.
Actually, no, I haven't.
I mean, it sounds like you've been practicing. You jumped right in. I didn't have to prompt you. It sounded good. Doing good.
I'm improving.
You're improving. You get a gold star.
My script reading for Squad Report was actually pretty good. I only had to edit a little bit of it.
Yeah, I didn't have a script. I didn't do Kerbal 101 this week. I just was too tired.
Assuming that they even recorded this weekend, because I didn't get anything back from Biff, but then again, I usually don't.
Well, there hasn't been a podcast put out either.
Yeah.
So unless it just came out, which it hasn't, I just refreshed Podcast Addict. No new podcasts from Kerbal.
Maybe they were off this week, but we need to get back to our outro.
Absolutely.
And it's your turn for your David Spade impersonation, unless you have anything else to add.
Nope. Bye-bye now.
I'll see you next time. I'm going to break form for once.
That's fine. You break form all you want. I'll still get in the last. Bye. This podcast brought to you by, what is this? Shockwave Energy. Blue Rush, a sugar-free energy drink that's a cheap knockoff of Monster. Tastes like cotton candy. In all seriousness out there...
It tastes like diabetes.
It tastes like diabetes. In all sincerity out there, corporate overlords who is listening to this outtake at the end of the episode, we will sell out to you, and we will take your free energy drinks. And by we, I mean me.
But only if they taste like cotton candy and diabetes.
Oh,